The alarms had begun at dawn. A deep, metallic rumble echoed across outpost Helion 4, a research colony built on the windswept plains of Vrax, a bronze-skinned world orbiting a dying star. For years, the colony had existed without incident, studying the unique crystal-based organisms that thrived in the planet's harsh environment. But that morning, something went catastrophically wrong. Sirens screamed through the corridors, red lights flickering like blood splashes against the steel walls. Radiation leak. Sector 7 rupture. Evacuate immediately. Dr. Lira'Ven clutched her newborn cubs against her chest, her fur standing on end from fear. She could feel the tremors in the air, a vibration that only her species could sense, warning her that the radiation spike was still climbing. "Lyra, this way," her colleague Yenta shouted over the intercom. "Shuttles are launching in 3 minutes." I can't make it," she shouted back. The corridor collapsed near Hab 6. "My cubs, they're too small to run." There was a moment of silence on the line. Then Yenta's voice returned, tight with worry. "Sector 9 has a radiation-safe room. It's the strongest in the colony. Get inside. I'll alert command." Lyra nodded, though no one could see her. She pressed her 3 cubs closer. 2 daughters and a son, each barely a week old, their small bodies trembling in confusion. The world outside roared with chaos. Workers sprinted. Emergency drones hissed overhead. Pressure doors sealed with loud clangs one after another. And through it all, Lyra ran against the flow, moving deeper into the outpost instead of toward the evacuation bay. Her lungs burned, her vision blurred, but she reached the thick, circular blast door of the safe room. The panel beside it flickered. "Radiation safe room, pressurized. Manual override required." Her hands shook violently as she typed in her code. The door groaned open, and she stumbled inside, falling to her knees as it slammed shut behind her. A sudden, heavy silence filled the small circular chamber. Only the cubs' soft cooing broke the quiet. Lyra sank against the wall, tears streaming down her furred cheeks. "Please," she whispered to whatever gods or forces watched over mothers, "let them live." The ventilation sealed. The filtration activated. The reinforced walls hummed softly as the chamber went into full isolation. And then nothing. Just stillness. Just waiting. Hours blurred together. Days passed in a haze. The emergency console flickered with warnings, but displayed no new data. The communication lines were offline. Food rations were low. Water was limited. She rationed everything, eating only after the cubs fed, drinking only when her throat burned too painfully to swallow. She told them stories to keep her mind from fracturing. Stories of their ancestors who crossed the star dunes. Stories of the twin moons that lit their homeworld. Stories of their lost father, who died before they were born, defending a previous outpost from a quake. Her voice would crack. Her tears would fall. But she kept speaking. "Your father would have loved you," she whispered one night, as they slept atop her chest. "He would have carried you on his shoulders, shown you the glowing fields, wrapped you in his cloak when the cold winds came." Her hands trembled as she stroked their soft fur. "But I will protect you, no matter what it costs." Time became meaningless. The safe room's lights dimmed to reserve power. Her body weakened from hunger. Her heartbeat slowed until she could feel its echo in her skull. Yet every time she looked at her cubs, tiny and fragile but alive, she forced herself to continue. She would not fail them. Not as long as a single breath remained in her body. On the 5th day, everything changed. A loud clang echoed through the safe room, the unmistakable sound of manual override gears grinding to life. Lyra's ears perked. Her heart pounded wildly. Someone was outside. She scrambled to her feet, clutching the cubs protectively. The blast door hissed, groaned, and then cracked open. A wave of cold air swept inside, carrying the smell of dust, snow, and something else. Human. A lone figure stepped through the smoke-filled corridor. He was tall, wrapped in a thick winter coat, his hair coated in frost, his breath visible in the cold. His face was weathered, his eyes tired but soft. He froze when he saw her, a mother trembling, clutching 3 newborns to her chest. Lyra stared back, hardly daring to breathe. The human swallowed. "My God, you survived." She blinked in disbelief. She hadn't heard another living voice in days. "You." Her voice cracked painfully. "Who are you?" "Elias Arden," he said gently. "Maintenance chief. I was off-site repairing the northern solar grid when the leak hit. By the time I returned, the outpost was empty. Evacuation ships had already launched." He stepped closer, slowly, like approaching a frightened animal. "I thought everyone was gone." Her knees weakened. "But how did you find us?" Elias lifted a small scanner. "Your safe room had power fluctuations. I followed the signal. I prayed someone was inside." Lyra's breath hitched. And then, she realized he wasn't wearing any protective gear, yet the radiation threat light on the door panel was no longer flashing. "You open the chamber," she whispered. "Is the radiation gone?" "Completely neutralized," he said. "The leak was contained 2 days ago. I've been searching for survivors ever since." A sob escaped Lyra's throat. Her cubs stirred in her arms. Elias saw it, the exhaustion, the dehydration, the days of starvation. "Sit down," he urged softly. "Let me help you." She sank to her knees, too tired to resist, too relieved to speak. Elias unpacked a medkit and water pack, moving with gentle, careful motions. He pressed a nutrient tab into her hand. "Eat," he said. "You need your strength for them." Lyra looked up at him, a stranger, a human, but the only living soul who had come for her. "You saved us," she whispered. He shook his head. "No. You saved them. I'm just giving you the chance to keep doing that." The words broke something inside her. Tears streamed silently down her cheeks. For the first time since sealing the door, she felt warmth, not from the safe room, but from hope. Over the next hours, Elias helped her out of the ruined outpost. The halls were empty, silent except for the crunch of metal under their boots and the distant whistle of cold wind sneaking through breaches in the structure. Outside, snow stretched endlessly across the metallic plains. A small survival shelter stood about half a kilometer away, smoke rising faintly from its chimney. "That's where I've been staying," Elias said. "It's safe, warm, and stocked." Lyra wrapped her arms tighter around her cubs to shield them from the cold. Elias noticed. Without hesitation, he shrugged off his coat. "Take it." She hesitated. "You'll freeze." "I'll be fine." "They won't." Something deep inside her chest shifted, an ache of gratitude so strong it almost hurt. They walked together toward the shelter. The sky above was a pale lavender, the dying star casting dim golden streaks across the horizon. The wind howled, but inside the coat Lyra felt warmth from both fabric and kindness. When they reached the shelter, Elias quickly started the heater and prepared food. Lyra sat near the fire, her cubs huddled tightly against her stomach. Elias glanced at them, awe flickering in his eyes. "They're beautiful," he said softly. Her ears flicked in surprise. "You think so?" "They're strong," he said. "Surviving what they just survived? That alone makes them miraculous." Her throat tightened. Elias worked in silence, heating stew and ration packs, occasionally glancing toward her to ensure she was still conscious. When he finally handed her a bowl, she ate carefully, slowly, savoring every warm mouthful. When she finished, she looked up at him, really looked. A human, alone, covered in snow, searching for survivors long after others had fled. "Why didn't you leave?" she asked quietly. Elias looked at the fire for a long moment before answering. "I couldn't," he said. "Not after I saw the evacuation logs. They didn't mark everyone as accounted for. Someone had to stay and look." Her breath caught. "You stayed for us?" "For anyone," he corrected softly. "But I'm glad it was you." Her heart fluttered in her chest, weak, wounded, but still capable of warmth, still capable of connection. Days passed. Elias repaired the shelter, extended the food supply, and created a small heated cradle for the cubs. Lyra slowly regained strength, though she still tired easily. The cubs grew, their eyes opening fully, their movements more coordinated. Sometimes Elias would watch them play, laughing softly as one attempted to climb onto his arm. Lyra watched him carefully at first, protective instincts sharp, but his gentleness never wavered. "You care for them," she said one night as they sat by the fire. Elias shrugged sheepishly. "They're hard not to love." Her ears lowered in something like embarrassment. "Humans surprise me. Good surprise or bad?" "Good," she admitted. "Very good." He smiled, the warmest smile she had seen in ages, and something fluttered inside her again, unfamiliar yet comforting. By the 10th day, the rescue fleet finally arrived, ships shimmering silver against the lavender sky. Command officers rushed to embrace Lyra, stunned that she and her cubs were alive. But when they asked Elias to board the evacuation ship, something in Lyra twisted painfully. He was leaving. Of course he was. Humans and her kind rarely stayed together long. He had done more than enough. But as he stepped toward the ship's ramp, one of her cubs, the smallest, the daughter with speckled fur, crawled toward him, whimpering softly. Elias paused. He bent down, scooping her up. She nuzzled against his chest with contentment. Lyra's breath shook. The officer beside her whispered, "It seems she's taken a liking to him." Lyra swallowed hard. "Yes, she has." Elias finally returned the cub to her, but his touch lingered for a moment longer than necessary. "I'm glad you're safe," he said. "All of you." She looked at him, really looked, and realized she didn't want him to walk away. "Elias," she said softly, her voice trembling. "You don't have to leave." He blinked. "What?" "You don't have to go back to Earth. You could stay with the colony. With us." Her heartbeat hammered. "With me." Silence fell. Heavy, fragile, hopeful. He stepped closer. His breath was warm against her forehead. "I stayed behind for survivors," he said quietly. "But now, I want to stay for another reason." "What reason?" He cupped her cheek with his gloved hand. "You." Her breath stopped. Her chest ached. Her vision blurred with sudden emotion. "And them," he added with a small smile, nodding toward the cubs. She laughed, weak, breathless, but joyful. Elias turned toward the commander. "Cancel my return ticket," he said. "I'm staying." The commander raised an eyebrow but nodded. And just like that, the dying world felt a little less dark. Weeks later, the colony rebuilt. Lyra moved into a new habitat dome, larger, stronger, filled with soft bedding and warmth. Elias helped reinforce it, install lighting, and set up a play structure for the cubs. They became something together, a family in their own strange, beautiful way. At night, Lyra would curl beside him, her head resting on his chest, the cubs asleep near the heater. "Elias," she whispered one night. "Thank you." "For what?" "For finding us. For staying. For choosing us." He wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "There was nothing else in the universe I wanted more." She closed her eyes. For the first time since the alarms had sounded, since the world had nearly ended, she felt whole again. Alive. Loved. And when dawn broke, painting the sky lavender and gold, Lyra stepped out of the habitat dome with her cubs rushing around her legs and a human walking beside her, knowing that survival had given her more than just another chance at life. It had given her a future.